Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast coming to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is John Mark Tolley, and joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Will. Will, how are you today, sir?
I'm fine. Bright suns, everybody. How's everyone doing tonight? I am great. I just watched the first 4 episodes of Star Wars Visions.
I did too. I haven't watched all. I think I've watched the first 3.
Yeah, I got through the first half. Well, not half, like almost half.
Yeah.
And I'm not big on Japanese animation, like as a thing. Not that I respect it as an art form, but it's just not something that I've personally watched a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to say, I was pretty impressed with.
I was too. The only one that maybe it just wasn't mine. It was the I believe it was the second one, the one with the band.
Okay, well, that was my favorite.
Obviously.
But I can totally get how that one might be a little.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and rewatch that one. But
I mean, it's just. Well, it was for one thing. That was my favorite for 2 reasons. One, obviously, the music aspect of it, and 2, it was nice to see kind of a connection to. That was probably of the first 4 anyway. I can't speak to the rest, but that seemed to be the most connected to what we're familiar with. Like with the whole Bunta Eve scene and everything.
Yeah, everything else seemed to be very much in its own world.
Yes.
Either connected somehow, like especially the first one, very much connected to Japanese samurai. If you know anything about Japanese culture and Japanese history, I almost had the idea, almost the feeling of the Ronin, the masterless samurai wandering the countryside.
I think that was the character's name, wasn't it?
Ronin?
I think it might
have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again, if you know Japanese history, Ronin was a samurai without a master, basically.
Which now that you mention, I'm not too familiar with it, but when you mention that, it even makes more sense, than to what they were going for there. So if you haven't seen it, folks, go watch Disney Plus Visions. They're very digestible, 15 to 20 minute episodes.
Yeah. And in fact, we will. In fact, I say right now, once we get done watching all of them, we go and kind of do a show on them, and we break them down and talk. Yeah.
I'm there, absolutely.
All right. Well, today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to be doing a little armchair directing, armchair writing. Basically, create your own story in the Star Wars universe. So,
all right.
Let's just spit all here. What are some stories that you would like to hear here?
All right. Well, before I answer that, let me answer that with a question. Okay. Are there parameters that we are sticking with? Are we talking about the story, taking the stories that we have seen and already and altering them in a way we'd rather have seen?
No, because I think we kind of did that last week.
That's more like a what if. That was more like.
I think this is. I think it has to be within the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
Obviously, so.
So what kind of things we'd like to see? What stories we'd like to see told?
Yeah, it can be like, we can make it any era. I would say though that we can do any era. So we can, like, if we want to do an Old Republic story, because those are ones that we haven't seen yet. We've seen, the closest we've seen is from the prequels. That's the closest to Old Republic that we've seen. And now with the books, the High Republic, but we haven't seen anything from, the early days of the Republic.
Wasn't I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with the Old Republic. I know what the reference is, but I don't know the specifics. Wasn't it like thousands of years before? Battle of Yavin
you had the I used to know all this. You had a certain empire that ruled, and then they were overthrown, and that was what helped set up the Republic, the original Old Republic.
Okay. And there was the whole was that part of like Darth Bane and the Rule of Two?
That came later.
Okay, that came a little later. Okay.
That was like then you had the Mandalorian War.
Okay.
With the Jedi, you had the formation of the Jedi, which kind of came around the same time.
Okay.
The Jedi. Then you had the Jedi Civil War, which then led to the formation of the Sith Order. And then you had Revan. You had the first Purge, where the Jedi were purged, and the fall of the Old Republic and the reformation of the Republic. And then, of course, that led into the High Republic, and the High Republic led into the fall of the Republic and the Empire. So, kind of a quick. There's a lot more.
Don't quiz me on that, but
I won't. Okay. I won't. There will be no quizzing in this.
All right, good. So, all right. Well, I'll start in terms of story. In terms of what I would love to see. And I don't even have to say. I don't have to say anything. I can just show it right here. I think with 900 years of adventure, we have a lot that we can see with Yoda, and I'd like to see a young, and I mean young, whatever the prime, whatever that species is in its prime.
Yeah.
Jedi Yoda story. Maybe it could be how he became a Jedi, and see what were his demons, what we're because everything we've known of Yoda, he's always been the master. He's always been the one that had all the answers and taught everybody. And yeah, he had some moments of his own adventures, and in Clone Wars we did see a little bit. We kind of peeled the onion a little bit with Yoda, particularly towards the end of that series. But I would like to see a young Yoda adventure, and it could be done in any format. I could do it as a one-off movie, a 10-episode Disney Plus series. I think a 10-episode Disney Plus series with each episode being 100 years later. Like start them off at like Baby Yoda, Grogu size, and what kind of was going on in the universe and in his life. And then the next episode, it's like make him almost like little mini movies of the week. And then the next episode would be when he's 100 something, then 200 something, all the way up until right before we get to know him, like right when the Clone War starts, say, for example. And it could, live or animated, although I think it'd be kind of fun to see some we've seen Puppet Yoda, and we've seen Digital Yoda, and then we had a return to Puppet Yoda. I honestly believe that they can do something with a combination of both.
Yeah,
that I would love to see, and if we could get Frank Oz back for a little bit of that, I mean that's almost too much to hope for. But armchair ideas. That's my thought out of the gate.
I like that. For me, I don't know. That's a good one. See, I would like to go something a little bit more different. I would like to go and see new characters, new stories, and new,
Oh, we have a comment from Scarif Scuttlebutt Podcast. Evening.
You guys look like Star Wars fans.
Yeah, you're right. We are Star Wars fans. Proud of it. Say it loud. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Rebel.
I don't have my helmet on. Sorry, my Vader helmet. But sorry, no. Yeah, I mean, going into other directions of look, the story has to do the franchise.
Yeah,
has to do that in order for it to expand, and that's almost another conversation. But let's go there for a moment. One of the things that I found very interesting, and again, this is my take, and I always like to preface that because my take is just my take. That's it. It has no more or less value than your take or Scarif Scuttlebutt's take or anybody else. It's just my thoughts, and I feel like we had our episode 7, Force Awakens, introduced a bunch of new characters. Okay, some main characters, some supporting characters, some were on the screen for 2 seconds, some were on screen for the whole movie and into the next two. And there just seemed to be a lot of complaining about that. And then we got the next movie was Rogue One, and everybody was like over the moon about Rogue One, and I enjoyed Rogue One too.
Yeah.
For different reasons that I enjoyed The Force Awakens. But I also felt like there was a lot of, and maybe this was less about character because there was a lot of new characters in Rogue One as well.
Mhm.
But there was also a lot of familiar, and not if not in character, in story, in setting, in spaceships, in like just sound effects and everything. And so I think that there's this delicate balance that Disney and Lucasfilm have to do where you want to continue to give a little bit of that familiar comfort food, if you will, and then you want to be able to jump into new directions and try new things and see what sticks and see what doesn't. And I kind of think it's smart of them to do that. So I enjoyed them all, But yeah, you're right. You got to go in a new direction and try new kind of characters. So do you have any specific ideas of what kind of characters you'd be looking for? Are we talking like, is it Jedi, Sith, bounty hunters? What are you thinking?
I'm partial to Jedi, but I don't think everything has to be Jedi related. I don't think everything. So it depends on what era we're going to set this. It would be set in, that's the good thing. That's the wonderful thing about the Star Wars universe is it's literally a universe. Yeah. Like I wouldn't mind seeing something for like a Disney Plus series set during the time of the rebellion. So even during the events when everything is happening, but set in a completely different when I was in, I think it was 8th grade, I had a assignment in my English class to write a short story.
Okay.
To write like I wrote a Star Wars story.
Okay.
And the story was based on a planet in the Outer Rim, and it was an Imperial planet. It was a planet run by the Empire, and the whole story was based around the events that happened right after the Battle of Endor. So they're getting the news that the Emperor is dead, and everybody's questioning, well, this can't be true. He can't really be dead. And the main antagonists were brother and sister, and the sister was a rebel and was more sympathetic to the rebel, and the brother was an Imperial. And it goes into, as they're figuring out what's going on, a rebel fleet appears to try to take back the planet from the Empire. So that was kind of that story. It was 8th grade. It wasn't exactly the best story, but I think that would be a good little short story. Heck, even Visions. We talked about Visions earlier. I think that would be a great concept for Visions. Just a short little but something similar to that, where it's set in another part of the Star Wars galaxy, and it's talking about all the events that are going on from a different, from a side view, from a view,
from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
I mean, that's that. I think that there's room for that. There's room for what I had in mind. I mean, I was like, I'll go in another direction here that I think about, and you mentioned your youth and a story that you wrote, and for me, and I think for most kids that were my age when this original trilogy came out, and I don't know if this was the same for the prequel kids or the sequel trilogy kids, or even the Mandalorian kids. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same, but in our youth, or at least when I remember, is that the movies came out, the toys came out, and you were the toys just fueled your imagination.
Oh yeah,
like you would get. I mean, I can't tell you how many adventures I had with, for example, I think it was Luke, Bespin Luke,
Mm.
Lando, the Bespin guard, and the Cloud Car pilot. Okay, now let's be honest. The Bespin guard and the Cloud Car pilot didn't do much in the film. Okay,
Yeah.
in fact, they were barely seen. They were like blink and you miss them, but they got their own action figure. So that meant that they got many adventures happening throughout, childhoods all over the world.
Mhm.
And I say that, and then as I grew up, my toy collecting turned more into a collecting and displaying kind of thing and less of a playing with toys. But I did still see when the prequels came out, I did still see, dozens and dozens and dozens upon dozens of alien species. And I wanted to know their stories. I
Mm.
wanted to know what was going on, especially in the Senate. I loved the Senate. I loved the look of the Senate, the pods, floating around.
Yeah.
And every single one of those pods, I wanted to know what was their story.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
they separatists? Are they part of the Republic? Are they going to be part of the Empire? Are they going to be rebellion? And I loved, for those who didn't know this, I'm sure most people watching the show or listening know, there was a cameo of E.T. aliens
Yes.
in there, and I was like, oh my god, that just, most people would just I got a chuckle out of it. Oh look, there's E.T. Haha. But for me, I was like, it all makes sense. E.T. was a freaking Jedi. Okay, I don't think any of the other ET aliens could do all the stuff that he could do. I think that they were just like aliens that walked around the planet and collected plants like he did. But he's the one that could make like flowers come back to life and fly and do all that stuff. I think he was a Jedi. That's
Makes
my
sense.
theory, and I'm sticking with it. So there's a story, and
Yeah.
every alien species, like the Aqualish, there's a whole side story about the calamari versus the
Corn.
squid head, or
The corn.
like the Quarren. Thank you.
The corn.
The calamari and they have the whole. They have. I mean, they showed a little bit of that during the Clone Wars, but
Yeah.
there was just so many alien species, and they kept creating.
That's when he recognized Yoda. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. I'm telling you, he's a Jedi, or at least a Jedi in training, or at least someone with force, an alien with force powers.
Ooh.
But and
E.T.'s a Sith. He's been secretly evil this whole time. No.
That to me, that strikes me as like a cheesy plot twist from like what you ever see 24?
Yeah.
That was always what happened in 24. Like halfway through the season, one of the characters, going on a sidebar here, but one of the characters in every season, it'd be a character that worked for the good guys that turned out to be a bad guy. And it was like always like, I mean, at first, at the time people were like, E.T. and Babu Frick are a forced diet. All right. Now we're getting into some weird territory, but I'll entertain it. That's fine. But anyway, and then I'm sorry, I keep monopolizing this, but you go on to the sequel trilogy, and then you go into Maz Kanata's castle, and that scene when they walk in, and there's literally 300 different types of aliens that we've never seen before. And some people complained about that. They're like, "What? Well, why is there? Can't you give us a Greedo or a Walrus man?" I'm like, look, if you're going to establish that it's a big galaxy and a universe, you have to populate it with thousands of species, not 10.
Since we're going off on a bit of a tangent anyway, that is one thing that I liked that Star Wars has done from the very beginning is they didn't always necessarily just do. Which, don't get me wrong, I also like Star Trek. Yes, I'm one of those people that likes both. But Star Trek always seemed to do the put some pointy ears on them, put some ridges on them, raise their eyebrows. You're good to go. You're got an alien.
Yeah,
Star Wars went.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Star Wars went. Let's make them as crazy looking as we can. Let's make this guy look like a hammerhead shark. Right. This other guy's going to be a giant walking carpet.
Yeah. Well, they also, in defense of Star Trek for that, why they were on a very limited budget.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean, and that's why that was especially the original trilogy, and that's why things were all so basic. And In fact, you think about the Klingons, what the Klingons looked like during the
The
original.
original. Yes,
Did you
which
ever
led to my
see?
I know what you're talking about, the Deep Space Nine
Yeah.
episode where they
Oh,
go to
I
and Worf does we do not speak of it.
love
Again,
that
this is
they
the Star Trek
acknowledged it. It was
episode.
like they
This
acknowledged it. I'm like, that's awesome.
well, and while we're finishing up on that, did you ever watch the Enterprise storyline where they discussed how they actually got the four?
I did, but I'm not remembering it.
It was basically they were trying to create hybrids,
Oh, okay.
and something happened, and they needed a cure because they were at risk of dying, and so they were given the cure, but the cure caused them to lose their forehead ridges and get a more human appearance.
Okay. So the ridgy browed ones came first, and then
they lost them.
They lost that, and they got it back. Okay.
Then they got it back. Yeah.
All right. I accept that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
like I said, this isn't the Star Trek podcast.
I know it isn't. It isn't. But I always feel like, I will say I did write a comic back in the day. My little comic book, my comic strip that was really, really. I mean, when you see, if anybody's seen my Darth Tuba channel and the art that I have on display there and the art that goes on in our TeePublic store, that is not my art. I cannot take any credit for that. It all is my daughter, who's a professional artist, and I must also point out that she's adopted because she did not get any artistic talent from me. I can assure you. But what I did draw up a little comic, and it was a Star Trek Star Wars crossover. Yes, it was, and I did it, and I'm proud of it. Even though it was kind of a stupid story nowadays, but I say, if Star Trek can have a Doctor Who crossover, then Star Trek and Star Wars can have a crossover. So
that's right. That's right. Hey, I've done the same thing too. I'll sit there I'll be sitting there and I'll just come up with different crossover stories and stuff like that. But maybe that's something we do for another day. We do something like that. But
that anything's possible because once Disney buys Paramount, I mean that's it. Next, or Desilu, or whatever Disney buys next.
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
Hey, I for one welcome our mouse overlord.
I do too. Absolutely. Everybody gets and I'm like, and I said this in an earlier episode. I said, let's think about what it was like before that fateful day, that October of 2012 day that we found out that Disney bought Lucasfilm and we were going to be making more Star Wars movies. We had Star Wars Angry Birds. We had, Star Wars Robot Chicken, Star Wars Family Guy. Loved Star Wars Robot Chicken. Loved Star Wars Family Guy. But come on, it's not a substitute for new and engaging stories. So
definitely.
Because what else you got?
Well, so before we go, let's pick a setting for the timeline before we go any further. So,
all right, so let's talk about that. So you were mentioning something about the Old Republic, and then you were mentioning something about the rebellion, like the early days of the rebellion.
Yeah. So either one. I would go personally Old Republic just because it's an area that the movies have not hit on.
Okay.
That is an area that hasn't got a lot of attention for the movies. Even the newer canon hasn't really hit on it a lot. So I think Old Republic, maybe 1,000 years before the movies.
Okay.
So
now the only thing I want to bring this up because the only thing that, and maybe actually before I bring this up, let me ask a question. Yeah. You did with the Old Republic that we did have, in comic book form or games or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed I only saw glimpses of it. I didn't really read it. I didn't really look in. I didn't dive too deep into it. But it seemed as though the technology was exactly the same as what we're used to in modern Star Wars.
Very close. Yeah. Okay.
Then I would ask that if we're going to do 1,000 years before, can we make it 1,000 years before and not seeming like it was 10 years ago? because I feel like I understand that the universe is big and vast, and the creatures and characters that populate the Star Wars universe can come from all different types of planets that develop technology at different rates. But I do feel that if you're going to tell a story that's 1,000 years old, older than what we're used to, let's make it 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
Let's not make it seem like it's the same story, just with different characters. That makes sense?
Yeah. So I mean, would you still have? Because if you're gonna do that, then you risk setting it just in one planet instead of making it. So you still have to have a situation where you can still have space travel. You can still have.
Okay. That's what I mean. Like, it's almost like we have to world build here, or world build. This kind of thing. Like, what if there was space travel, but there was no hyperspace? So you would limit what your adventure would be limited. And I'm not complaining about this. I mean, I'm challenging the idea to tell a story where you can travel from planet to the neighboring system, but you can't travel beyond anything and you can't, or you can, but it doesn't take an hour. It takes months, or if not years. So it's a huge event. Like Star Trek, getting back to Star Trek, like a 5-year mission. You know what I mean? It's like a huge thing, and I think that opens the door to different types of stories, not closing it. Yes, it limits you in some ways, but I think it forces you to be creative in other ways.
Okay.
But what do you think of that? I mean,
I see your point. I think though.
Here's another thing. I mean, I'm sorry, just throwing it out there. Leave space travel like approximately where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe take it a little longer. Maybe just even hyperspace, but projectile weapons instead of blasters.
I do like that. I also think like maybe a compromise is something where, like, you can't just hyperdrive from one end of the galaxy to the other. Like hyperdrive only works for and you have to, like, each ship has to go to certain, kind of like in the prequels. Obi-Wan's ship had to go into those rings.
Right.
That's how it would work. And you can only hyperspace from maybe one star system to another star system, and then you have to recharge.
Right.
And then you have to hop.
Right.
Something like that.
Just set up like a time, some technological de-evolution that would make sense.
Well, like in the comics and in the books, before the Jedi became the Jedi, their blasters almost look like proton packs. If you ever see the drawings, they had a big charger, like a battery charger on the back, and then a core, and then like a tube, and then it would come through, and then the lightsaber would, like that. I don't know if that would be something that might be a little too clumsy, especially if you're going to be doing battle scenes. You're going to be having,
but even
combat.
But even having larger scale everything, larger scale blasters, larger scale lightsabers,
and even the ships instead of having, more push button, everything be more dial based, and you actually have to pull levers and. All
right. So if you do it, as long as you're making some allowances when it comes to like I'm just calling it de-evolution, to depending on the amount of years. Now, if you're all doing something that's like 200 years earlier, that's a little different. But if you're doing something 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000,
and the timeline can we could always play with the timeline as far as, but I think it definitely needs to be before, like, it needs to be in the old Republic time.
Right.
Like, there needs to be a large gap between when this movie takes place and from even when the events of the prequels happen. so that all the things that they talk about when they talk about, well, we haven't seen Sith for 1,000 years.
Right. So obviously it has to be beyond that. So
yeah,
that's fine. Okay. And you say you would like, you were saying before that you would like to have Jedi.
I would like to. I think if you're going to be doing a Star Wars story, in my opinion, at least mention of Jedi has to be in there, because almost everyone except for Solo has had some sort of either mention of Jedi, or we've seen some sort of Force use there. I think Solo is the only one. Even Rogue One had the Vader scene, so you didn't have to say have Jedi, but you had Force use.
And yeah, and you were on the planet Jeddah, so
yeah.
I would say, I don't know how much I agree with that. I mean, and again, we're just armchair.
And it depends on what story you're telling. Like if you're telling a broad story, like say for instance, and this is one that I remember when when they started talking about the Mandalorian coming out, before we had heard anything and we'd seen anything, there was speculation that we were going to be seeing the Jedi Mandalorian War.
Right.
That's what we're going to be seeing, which would have meant possibly seeing Revan. We could do something like that. You could see the war between the Republic and the old Republic and the Sith. Something grand like that. Something, because I think for Star Wars, you have to have something. For a movie, you have to have something grand.
If you're going to call it a Star Wars story, you got to have the stars and you got to have some wars. So
yeah.
I think either like you said, either a battle or several battles or war between the Jedi and the Sith, or the Jedi and the Mandalorian. I don't think that's an out of the way, because even when
even if you do a movie with the Jedi and the Mandalorians, you can tie that into the Mandalorian series, because you can show the Darksaber being brought in, with the Mandalorian stealing the Darksaber, and
I do think that whatever we do, whatever is decided, whatever we do, like we're going to actually do this, but whatever is decided, it would have to be something that connected. At least it doesn't have to be like a direct connection, but at least in, like you said, if we were going to do something with the Jedi and the Sith, or Jedi and the Mandalorian, it could tie into things that we have going on now, like the Mandalorian, that kind of thing. Only because it's nice. Connections are just nice, just to see how the world connects or the universe connects. Doesn't have to do that. Again, it's always nice to build the world out even further. But it's just, I kind of think that's good. I think my mind leans more towards the Jedi Mandalorian fight, just because when you consider that, well, for one thing, and again, this harkens back to, in our childhood, there were the good guys and there were bad guys, and the cops and robbers. And as we have aged, we realize that good isn't always good and evil isn't always evil. And evil people never never think they're evil. They think they're doing it for a good reason. So if you had the Jedi versus Mandalore, there are two sides to that story that are possible to talk about. I mean, you have obviously Mandalorians that we've seen in more present day stuff that, have a creed and abide by the creed, and they aren't inherently evil people, and then you have, of course, the Jedi that always seem like I think, Jedi, I think, get an incorrect assessment because they look like priests and monks and religious figures. And yes, they do, and they're supposed to be celibate. So they have this model that's similar to like a monk or a religious figure, which always gives off the impression of being a good guy, a good person and a person of light. And I think that may be true, but there could be a story there that says, you know what, the Jedi didn't always have all the answers. So I think that would be an interesting story.
Yeah. Well, let's go then to. I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how we go in this casting.
Ooh.
Who do we want to see? And I'm going to go right off, and I'm going to cast my lead actor, Finn Wolfhard.
I'm not sure who that is.
Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
And he's in the new Ghostbusters movie.
Okay, I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
he's going to be my initial lead actor playing a Jedi.
All right. Very good.
Playing a Jedi Padawan.
A Jedi Padawan. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I wasn't thinking about casting, so that one I'm going to have to mull over a few minutes here. But
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of like the actors that I enjoy watching.
Yeah.
And I will say that, and it's funny too. I was just thinking about this today. Like, the oh, I know, I had one.
Okay.
For an elder, whether it be an elder Jedi, could be the master, or an
Yeah.
elder Mandalorian, Pierce Brosnan.
Ooh.
I think him now. I've been seeing him lately. He's got the big bushy beard now, and I
Yeah.
just kind of feel like he's sporting definitely a more aged elder statesman kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he could do that as either as an elder Jedi or an elder Mandalorian. So that's one, and then there was another one I was thinking of. Would you recast any actors from the current or previous Star Wars films in a different role?
I don't know. I think this. I mean, if anybody, and I think this would be an opportunity to maybe give this person a not necessarily redemption, but because there's a lot of flack thrown towards him because of some of the acting choices, directing choices that were made. Hayden Christensen.
Okay.
I think if anybody, I would give a sort of a redemption role is for it to be Hayden.
I would go with and I was gonna say Liam Neeson, but I would say if it was Liam Neeson, I would want it to be a direct descendant of Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to be like just some random character that he just happened. Then it feels like a cameo, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
Any female actors that you would want to cast?
I'm thinking. One thing is, there's a lot of actresses and actors that I know who they are, but I just can't think of the name. She played Hela in Thor.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. All right, hold on. I'm looking. I'll get it. Thor, what was that? Thor Ragnarok, right?
Thor Ragnarok, yeah.
Of course, my phone is.
Oh yeah.
I
understand the feeling. Yes.
Come on. Oh, jeez. Thor Ragnarok. There we go. Oh God. Kate
Beckinsale?
Maybe.
It could be.
I think it might be Kate Beckinsale. No, Kate. It's not coming up. Dang it. Thor Ragnarok. Okay.
There we go. All right.
I'm looking at. Okay,
I'm looking
here we
at,
go. Where the heck? Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett. I think she'd be good. I think she'd be interesting again as like a villain character, sort of a female Sith.
Okay.
I think that would be, and maybe I'm just saying because I saw how good she did as Hela in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, there. I think Helen Mirren. I mean,
almost as like an empress character. I could see her almost as like an empress.
I would like to see her in some kind of an Empress kind of role. I would love to see her join the Star Wars universe in a unique way like that. And another one, and again, going to pull out the Star Trek thing here. I've always felt Kate Mulgrew. I've been watching a lot of Voyager lately, and my wife was real big into Orange is the New Black, and she was in both of those series and very different roles. I think she's a phenomenal actress. I think that she could bring something very unique, different to the Star Wars universe. Maybe, and again, it's not something that I'm not exactly sure if she. I think she might do something more. I probably see her doing something not on either side, not Mandalorian, not Jedi, but maybe like some type of another character, like a go between.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I think would be, and you could make him as sort of in that same vein that you said with Kate Mulgrew, sort of in between, in almost a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a bounty hunter, but sort of a crime lord.
Yeah,
kind of a job in the Hutt. Well, but I can see Kate Mulgrew, but I can also see someone like Atiki Watiki.
I was
the same.
You like read my mind. That was gonna be my next name.
On the comic side of it, but that same because have you seen the movie Free Guy yet?
I have not. I want to. It just hasn't.
He's in that. He plays basically a game developer, the head of a huge game, and just that character, the crazy and I could see that transferring into the Star Wars universe as sort of this crime lord and kind of this crazy off the wall character like that, or even doing a voice of a character, make him an alien and have him be.
Oh yeah, well he's good at that. So
yeah, and also, I mean, since we're talking about casting, do we want to, like you already mentioned, with Qui-Gon do we have many more of those? I guess you call them legacy characters and direct descendants of these legacy characters, or relatives. Do we want to have a Skywalker, or is that time past?
I would say no, because in the story you really can't have a Skywalker because Anakin was the first.
Yeah, well, think about Shmi. I mean, you had Shmi.
Well, Shmi, yeah, Shmi. So I guess you could, but so I guess you could do it, but I don't know.
To me, I would lean away from that. If you're going to do characters like that, I think that you do subtler and you do lesser known characters. So, like, you could have you could have something where a new crime lord, like the Hutts, taking control. You could have a side story where the Hutts to take control of the side of the crime syndicates, and you find out, like maybe in one of the books, you find out that one of these new Hutts that have taken over is a descendant to Jabba. Maybe Jabba's great grandfather or something like that. I don't know how long Hutts live, but or something like that.
Another direction could be a droid. You can have a droid that's like a descendant of, maybe not R2, but like maybe a descendant of Chopper. Maybe it's Chopper's original like factory out of the off the assembly line, brand new, and he he got bounced around from owner to owner until he kept getting parts replaced till he's no longer, none of him is original, so that could be kind of, except for his processing unit, so you could do something like that just for fun. But again, I think that's you're getting into fan service with that, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I'm not saying, it's a delicate balance. How much fan service do you do?
And we've talked about it before. We have talked about that before. But yeah, so there's one. If this was made about 40 years ago, I know, right when I know it had the perfect person for a villain. again, if this was made 40 years
Well,
ago,
you're armchairing it, so just say it, whatever.
Chris
Let's assume.
Christopherson
Okay. Oh,
as like a
young Chris Christopherson.
Yeah, with full
Okay.
beard, you know,
Right.
as the Sith Emperor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which if you've ever seen let me pull this up real quick.
Okay. It's Chris Christopherson. All I can think of is that movie that he was in, that weird movie with, I forget the model, that weird time travel movie.
Oh yeah,
Millennium or something like that. I think that was him.
It's not a very good picture. Maybe I'm not thinking. Maybe I could think of someone else, but let me pull up.
Okay.
Maybe it's not Sith.
So for our listeners aren't going to be able to do this, but we'll get it. Oh, I see. Okay.
So I can't think of
I
who.
see it. It's like he's a little more clean cut in that image.
But
so
maybe I'm not thinking Chris Christopherson, but in the games, that's what the Sith Emperor looked like.
Oh, that's kind of my goodness. I mean, I could think of 100 actors that could fit that profile now and back in 40 years ago. So no, that's fine. But okay. I mean, definitely some cool ideas here, some cool concepts that we're coming up with, and a cool cast. Who would do the music? Let's say,
well,
now you know what? If you know what, I feel like, John Williams. As much as I love John Williams, and I do, and don't ever know anybody mistake this, but I like that he just wrote the Skywalker movies.
Sagas.
Yeah. I like that when it came to Solo and Rogue One, they started to branch out. They were doing that before that with video games and with Kevin Kiner and the Clone Wars and Rebels, and now Ludwig Göransson doing Mandalorian. So there's a vast array of people to write for this. However, and that's not to say that if John Williams, called us up and said, "Hey, I'd like to score the movie," I would say yes, sir.
Yeah.
Here it is. We'll see you at the record. We'll see you at Abbey Road. I would never deny John Williams, but if he was unavailable, I think my dream composer, that's still alive anyway, would be Alan Silvestri. I will say this about Alan Silvestri. He to me was kind of like in my 80s, thanks to Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and a few other ones around that time. But beyond that, at that time, there wasn't as much out there that you could sing or hum or remember besides those. And even Roger Rabbit was a little more niche. But then came the Avengers and Captain America, and then all of a sudden he was back with a passion. And then they gave him the arduous duty of having to write for Infinity War and Endgame, and he just pulled it out in spades. An amazing score. That I actually get almost, if not just as emotional about as I did, particularly Endgame, I do any of the John Williams scores. So I would say let's give Alan Silvestri a chance at some Star Wars while we're making up our dream movie here.
Yes. So while we're because we're getting close to the hour mark here. This is the big question. Do we go with the scroll, or do we do like they did in Rogue One and Solo, where you just see a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then boom, you're into the movie? Or do you think the scroll is something that should be saved for the saga movies?
I'm going to say saga movies for the scroll.
Okay.
And come up with another creative way. Keep the create. Don't start like repeating. I mean, the only other thing I might consider, either come up with something fully unique on your own, like something brand new, or I kind of like the way Solo started, where they just continued with the long time ago font and they
Yeah.
just had a few quick sentences to just kind of present where we were, what we were doing. I
Yeah.
think that would be a very wise move, because people are
Mhm.
going to go. A thing about what people forget, and this is something that is it was true of Rogue One, and it
Mm.
was true of Solo, is that people don't realize that just because the word Star Wars is in a title, it doesn't mean that it's immediately connected to the last movie you saw.
Yeah.
Like, people went to go see Episode 1, and they were like, "Where's Chewbacca? Where's Luke? Where's Leia?" They thought they were just going to
Yeah.
go see more
Star Wars.
adventures of that, right?
Yeah.
And then when the sequel trilogy came out, it was much further away, so they kind of figured they wouldn't see Luke and Leia as much, or they would, but they'd be older. And then we saw Rogue One, and everyone then was like, "Well, where's Rey? Where's Finn? What's this all about the Death Star?" I don't get this. So without
Yeah.
context, you can't just
Well,
assume that people are going to know what's going on. You need context. So
yeah. I think one thing that would be a good is to take something similar to what they did in Clone Wars, but tweak a little bit. Clone Wars, of course, you had, every episode ending would begin with the voiceover guy saying,
Tom Kane, yeah,
Tom Kane, battle here at Scarif.
yeah.
But you could do an introduction by one of the characters, where he says, introduces, where you
Actually,
said a long time ago in a galaxy far away, and then you hear the voice of maybe the main character
oh, frozen.
introducing you to what's going on. We've been at war,
I kind of would love it. I mean, and again, we're dreaming now, because if you're not aware, Tom Kane suffered a stroke a few months ago, and is now his daughter just announced his retirement. He's not able to speak, so sadly. And just on a side note, wonderful man. I've met him a couple of times. He's just at Star Wars Celebration. Just a wonderful human being. I would want him, if he was still well, and if this was possible, I would want him to narrate that opening thing, because I feel like it ties us into more great storytelling, like it was for the Clone Wars. And I don't think it's unique to anything, because he's done it for Rebels, he's done it on and off for a lot of things. And if it wasn't him, then the other one would be, I can't think of the actor's name, but the voice actor that did the Star Wars radio drama. Did you ever, that one? What was cool about that was that every episode began with this voice. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there came a time of revolution when rebels united to challenge a tyrannical empire. He would say that at every episode. Then he would go on to like what was going on in the story, and I got to find his name. I don't even know if he's still around, but just really, really cool.
I think another one that would be good for that kind of voice, that kind of introduction role, is Peter Cullen.
Oh,
that
yes,
dark,
yes,
that deep, Optimus Prime.
right.
But anyway, I think
still, he's got a wonderful voice, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think of, of Optimus Prime when I hear him, but
I think that's the one thing that you risk,
right.
especially for is you get people will be thinking, why is Optimus Prime in Star Wars?
Come on, another crossover. We got this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see like if it comes up. Cast. Brock I don't. Ken Hiller. His name is Ken Hiller. He was the narrator, and not only did he narrate Star Wars radio drama, Empire radio drama, he came back to do Jedi. He did the Dark Forces radio drama. He did a bunch of them. Like he did a whole bunch of like new radio, like books on like radio drama, book on tape kind of thing, a bridge booked on tapes that he's done. So, and that was only up until like 20 years ago. So he might, I don't know if he's still around or not. Let's get Ken Hiller's agent on the phone. So, all right, we're running up. We're starting to wrap up here. So.
We are. Yeah.
But I
Well,
like our movie. I'm
I did
I'm all
too. I
for
did too.
I'm all for it.
Let's write it up and send it to
Right.
Disney.
Yeah,
See
you
what they
got it.
say. There we go.
I'm on it. Awesome.
When you go down to Disney World, just go into the front offices and go plop. Here you go.
It's like, I know no unsolicited material, but you've got to read this. You've got to read this. This is gold. This is gold. One can dream, right?
Yes, one can. Well, I think we've had fun tonight.
Yeah, that was interesting.
We will be back next week, and we've talked about this. We haven't talked about this, but I'm thinking for a second.
Okay.
If we want to do this, or if we want to wait. It's something. It's a topic we've done before a couple times actually. A series.
Okay.
Is to redo, since we have a new host, the Women of Star Wars.
Oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do an episode about that.
I know for a fact we have several people who've said they'd be interested in coming on as guest.
Okay.
Some females, women that have said they'd be interested in coming on. So I say next week we start our look, part 3, our third look at the Women of Star Wars, as we will look at Princess Leia.
Okay.
Starting off big.
Wow, nice.
With the big one.
All right.
Yes. Will, why don't you tell the fine people out there once again where they can find you?
Okay, you can find me, folks, at Darth Tuba, Star Wars Unboxing Show on YouTube. This is like my other home when I'm not hanging out with John here on War of the Stars. You can find that just by searching Darth Tuba on YouTube. And you can email me, darthtuba77@gmail.com, if you want to get a hold of me. You can also look for me on Facebook, Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing page, or at Darth Tuba at Instagram and Twitter.
All right. Well, here at War of the Stars, if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so by emailing us at warthestars1@gmail.com. Remember to send in those tapes and those emails to us about your Star Wars story, which reminds me, we did get one. I have not had a chance to upload it yet, but I will. Good friend of the show who's been a listener for a while, guy who goes by the Twitter name of Rural Farm Boy.
I love Rural Farm Boy. He's very much a
very
promoter.
Cool, very cool. Yeah, oh yeah, huge promoter of the show, of all the podcasts out there. He sent his story, so next week we will play that and give him even more of a shout out. So
okay.
But yeah, so you can email us there, warthestars1@gmail.com. That is also our Twitter handle is at War of the Stars 1. You can check us out there. Also, don't forget we are part of the Red 5 Network. Go to red5network.com for more information on all the shows there. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/War of the Stars. And also you can buy our merch at www.spreadshirt.com/War of the Stars. Remember to put a dash in front of War of the Stars. Dash in front of all of those will take you to the right website for that. Other than that, I believe for right now that is it. Until next week, remember, this isn't just my Star Wars. This isn't just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. May the Force be with you.
To the spires, everyone.
Oh. Okay, well, looks like we have to